Oh boy, Tim, what a race in Canada. What a great race. A little bit of drama at the end, which kept Tim Hauraney at the track for hours and hours and hours after.
Yep.
Which is why we have to do it the next morning because, Tim, what time did you get back to the hotel?
Oh gosh, I think we got back around 10. Yeah, around 10, I think it was. And then we hadn't had a chance to eat dinner, so we went out and got like a quick bite, and then got back to the hotel. And oh geez, I think we were, well, not we, I should say. I think I was in bed probably about midnight, and then you and I got up at whatever 6 to do this, and
and then you're leaving the hotel right after this hotel or this podcast is done.
Yeah, as soon as we're done taping, I'm zooming out of here.
Oh man, it's been a so crazy weekend, and Tim, I think it's so apropos that on SportsCenter this weekend you were saying this past week you were interviewing Lando Norris, going, well, at some point we're going to have an issue with Oscar and I, and we did. We also had a Max Verstappen versus George Russell, quickly becoming my favorite rivalry in the sport. And a few other things to talk about first. But I guess we'll start at the top. And George Russell, Max Verstappen, they qualify 1-2. They finish 1-2. There's a huge protest lodged by Red Bull afterwards. Christian Horner swears it's not personal. Yeah, sure. I mean, we know this. We know how Red Bull operates. But let's just talk about the race part of it. Yep. And, George Russell, Kimi Antonelli took a car that traditionally has only really been good in cool weather conditions. And with track temperatures pushing 50 degrees, we're able to get everything they needed out of the tires. And both of them raced as close to perfect as you can get.
Yeah, Adam, I think, so I would say Red Bull was pitting Max like quite early in the race, like in his stints.
Yeah, he called the tires fragile.
Yeah, well, it was simply because they were actually getting him to be like pretty aggressive with it. Like they were getting him to push, and they were getting him to put pressure on George Russell to see. I think it had something to do with trying to see if they could either get him to make a mistake and get him to push, and to see where the tire deg was like with the Mercedes. But Russell was just able to handle everything that sort of Max threw at him throughout the entire race. In the last, I think it was probably about the last 12 laps or so, like Max was able to whittle George's lead down to about 1.1 seconds, 1.3, like in and around that area. And he just couldn't close that gap because I think George just had a little bit too much pace. And as well, he had the clean air at the same time. But it was interesting because this was a really hot race, Adam. Like it was hot out there on Sunday. And I was expecting like the Mercedes tire deg to be like really high, and I thought this was going to be a really hard race for them to win. But
right,
honestly, like I don't want to say it was comfortable for George, because he was having to control the pace of the entire field. But I would say like it doesn't really look like the heat was bothering them whatsoever. They were using a suspension that they had introduced to this car back in Imola. And then they stopped using it for Monaco. And then they stopped using it for Barcelona. And this was its first introduction, or I guess reintroduction, I should say, since Imola, that they had this new suspension on the car. And it looked like, for this track, it looked like it really worked. And so I think it's something that they learned from here last year. Mm-hmm. And with the amount of curb riding that you have to do, I think the suspension that they had developed was something that they knew was going to be good for Canada, because how well it was being used over the curbs at Imola. I remember you and I did a pod, and I'd said like there was the back chicane in Imola, and I said, like, you really have to like ride those curbs and do a lot of curb striking. And it reminds me a lot of like what we have here in Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And I said, like, whoever was going to be really good over those curbs was probably going to be pretty strong in Canada as well. And sure enough, like Mercedes was pretty decent over those curbs in Imola. And sure enough, they were decent here. A big part of that has to do with that suspension. as well. But yeah, no, I just thought George was super impressive all weekend. As soon as I showed up on Thursday, and I got to sit down, I did a one-on-one interview with him and talked about his contract, talked about his stuff with Max, and I just got that sense from him. Like he was super relaxed. He was joking around with me before we started. Like he stuck around and we chatted a bit afterwards. Like he just looked like in a good place. And I even asked him like, hey, you were really competitive here last year. I'm like, and obviously he didn't come away with a win, but like, do you feel like this place owes you something? And he was like, oh no, I don't really think so. And I don't think it owes me anything. And I was kind of just like, okay. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, I think you're lying to me.
He raced like he was lying to you.
Yeah, I mean, he was very good all weekend. He was great.
He seemed
in the race.
Quite jovial, by the way. He seemed to just be in a really good sense of mind.
Yeah, and he came down to our Sports Center desk that we had in the.
I saw it.
Yeah, so I asked. I said because we were in the media pen and I was doing a bunch of interviews and stuff, and I was texting back and forth, and I was like, hey, do you think we can get George down to the Sports Center desk and he can do a 1-to-1 with us? That'd be awesome. Like, we would love that. And they're like, yeah, sure. Mercedes was like, sure, let's do it. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. Awesome. I'm like, this is awesome. So like I ran down, like got everybody got everything ready, got the set ready. Like it was cool. He came in and there was so much energy when he came in and sat down with us, and we were all, me and DZ, who was doing the hosting, we were just like super jacked.
Yeah, of course. That's so cool.
No, but it was an impressive race from George. Getting back to the tires and stuff, Adam, that car looked very competitive. I don't know if this is going to be like a turning point for them. He doesn't think so. But again, like part of me thinks, Adam, like is seeing how uncompetitive the McLarens were. I mean, they were competitive, but they weren't like their normal. They didn't have that next little level this weekend.
Yep.
And Max and the Red Bull were kind of like they were there, like they were right there. I don't know. Max felt that he thought the car needed like more performance. He was just because I basically asked him like when you're trying to make your push there at the end, what were the limiting factors? Essentially, is what I had asked him, and he's just like, well, like the tire drag was high because I was pushing, so much because the team had him pushing so much, but the performance, he said, needed to come up on the car as well. So they need to make another step, but he didn't seem too upset about the car. You know what I mean? Like he actually seemed like quite positive about it. Where it just felt like, I think just a couple little tweaks, maybe a couple little upgrades. And yeah, I think like, Red Bull would be right at the front. Now, whether or not Max can win a championship or not, because of, what happened in Barcelona, I mean, we'll see. Max did cut into Lando's lead, obviously, and also Oscar's as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was really it was another great race from a guy who cannot get support anywhere else. I think Yuki Tsunoda, was making some progress early in the race, but obviously you saw with his finish at 12th, they just can't get much out of the second driver of this Red Bull this year. And so it's going to be down to Max and his preferences and what he can do. And obviously he did push George a little bit at the beginning. And, at the end, I mean, sorry, I guess before the race even started, I do want to touch on this. George, when he qualified in first, said, I got a few more penalty points to play with than Max does. Oh, yeah. And Max had been asked about it, I guess, on the Thursday, the Friday, and then the Saturday. And he finally said, I'm tired of being asked about it.
Yeah.
He said it. He called it childish.
Yep.
I don't think it's childish, Tim. I don't think it's childish to ask him every day about this over the course of a weekend because, frankly, as things change, those penalty points and, being 1 point away from a race ban it factors into everything. It factors into the Red Bull strategy. It factors into how Max races people. It's a relevant question. Do you get the sense that he's just under a lot of pressure?
No, not really. I think, for Max, he was just getting annoyed with it all.
Yeah.
Because it was everywhere. I mean, like it was all like we were talking about it. I mean,
how could you not, though?
I mean, he's probably turning on SportsCenter and seeing me talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how. What are we going to talk? How could you not talk about that?
He's
the defending champion.
you have to talk about it. There is, you have to talk about it. It's a story, and it's going to be a story. It'll probably quiet down a lot more now because of how he performed over the weekend. But yeah, coming into Saturday, Adam, you had to be talking about it. And then both of them got on the front row. It's like honestly, it's turning into one of those stories that's like, it's probably turning into one of my new favorite stories.
Oh, and they don't like each other.
No, and they don't. And like, just because, and that's the other thing. I don't like I'll start here. I think when you have two drivers who are very talented and very competitive, that this is going to happen.
Yep.
I think for Max, he does tend to get annoyed with the media when it's kind of just over and over and over.
Yep.
And I get that. And I think also there's nothing he can really do about it. Like, it's just because it's going to have to keep, and the more he's like, oh, this is childish, the more it's probably going to get piled on.
Yep.
So when you see both of them get on the front row, it's like how, you have to talk about this. Like, what are they going to do going down into the first corner? I mean, these two do have a past. Max, like you said, Adam, like one penalty point away from a race ban.
Oh,
like how is he going to handle it? You got to set the race up. You got to build it. People want to know. Like, fans want to know. They want to, like, they're here to see it too. Like, they want to see a good competition, good rivalry and stuff. Yep. So, it's just, there's nothing you can do about it. Unfortunately, it's just, it's a huge story, and you have to talk about it. Like, you just do. And I was waiting with, so I was waiting outside the FIA room. I think I sent you a picture.
Yes, you did. That old door. Tim just sends me a picture of the door after the challenge was made yesterday.
Protest,
and you guys were stuck at the track a long
time. Long time. And because I was texting back and forth with Adam, I'm like, I don't know, but we can do the podcast early on Monday morning because I'm still here. I'm like, I'm standing out back. I'm waiting to see Max and George come into the stewards room because of the protest. And I'm sitting there, I'm waiting. Like 30 minutes later, I'm like, I'm still waiting. Because I wanted to see if I could get anything from them when they came out. Like, just like the eye test, body language. Because I can't ask them a question.
Oh,
I don't want to push that sort of boundary either. Like, I know, I don't want to cross that boundary.
There's a time and a place.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pat. Those guys are just getting done the race. I know they want to get out of there, and I'm not going to like try and interview them while they're walking out of there. I wouldn't have felt it was right. So I just wanted to like see the body language or whatever. And so they both came out of there, and they were talking. Like, they were talking to each other the whole walk down to the paddock before they were separated when Max went into Red Bull and George went down to Mercedes. Like, they were chatting away with each other. And so, healthy competition, man. Healthy little rivalry there. I think Max was, I'm not too sure what they were talking about, but he didn't look like upset. Like, it wasn't like Qatar, like when they both came out of there in Qatar, they were upset. Or Max was upset, but it wasn't like that. Like, so I don't know what that tells us, but maybe they were just telling each other's sides of what happened during that safety car period, and that was kind of it. But that was, for me, was hard to tell. Like, okay, where's this protest going? Like, if Max was really upset coming out of there, then he was probably going to lose. Red Bull was probably going to lose the protest. But both of them had like poker face on. It was too hard to tell. But it was good to see them chatting, like coming like it's not like they absolutely hate each other. Like,
well, I don't think they're playing pickleball together on the weekends anymore, though.
Probably not. Hey, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. I thought that part of it, that part of the race was perfect. Them starting against each other. Now, one of the things that happened in this start of the race was Max Verstappen got right in behind George Russell. Oscar Piastri got right in behind Max Verstappen. And young Kimi Antonelli, the third youngest podium ever, was able to sneak by Oscar Piastri on that first lap. And, Tim, that held up Oscar's entire race. Like they were talking on the broadcast about how a whole bunch of modeling had been done and they had a senior team executive tell them, well, we're pretty sure it's going to be a McLaren 1-2. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason you don't get one McLaren on that podium is because of what Kimi Antonelli did. And I want to talk about his race because he's been putting in solid result after solid result and hasn't done anything wowing or spectacular in terms of a crazy performance where he dominates the whole field. But he's 18. And it seems like this third place was just building confidence every single race until this one. And obviously this is a track where, guys like Lewis Hamilton and Daniel Ricciardo got their first wins. Mm-hmm. Some pretty big names here. Can you talk about Kimi's race and what it is you think he did so spectacularly well? Because he was able to shut out the championship leader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was Kimi was great all weekend. I think it started for him probably in qualifying, I would say. It's a track he's never been to. He's never driven at. I mean, he did probably a lot of sim, but other than that, Adam, nothing else, which is pretty impressive. I mean, he did the same thing in Miami, when I was there, a track he didn't even know, but performed really well at. I think he just drove a smart race. It actually, this was probably one of those races where I felt he handled the tire deg way better than he's ever handled it. Because it actually, the deg was quite high because of the hot temperatures. And it was actually the hottest here on Sunday. So his comparison would have to have been from, I want to say FP2 long runs. And again, those long runs in FP2, it was cooler. So the deg wouldn't have been as high. So how he had to introduce the tire to the track would have been one thing. And then maintaining and managing the degradation throughout a stint is another. And I felt that he handled it, really well. It just kind of shows that he's definitely learning. There's no question about that. But this is going to be a podium. I think, Adam, he's probably never going to forget. He crossed the checkered flag, took the checkered flag, I should say. And I asked him, what were your thoughts, in that moment, as soon as you took the checkered flag? He was crying. He said he was very emotional in his helmet. I don't know if that meant he was crying or if he wasn't.
I'd be crying.
For sure. I think for him, there's a lot leading up to that moment, and you could see it from the team because I went to the back of their garage for their team photo celebration, and I think I posted a video of it on my Instagram. I'll post the other ones later today or Tuesday, but they were so happy for Antonelli. They grabbed him, held on to him, and literally just dumped champagne all over him.
Even George gave him a huge hug after the race,
but they were spraying him at him so much with champagne. I've got a video of it. They were spraying him so much, and he was yelling. He's like, "No more!" They're like,
and not even illegal. Well, I guess he is legal to drink in Quebec. Well,
he wasn't drinking; he was getting soaked.
He's getting soaked in it. But you can drink at 18 in Quebec, I think. So yeah.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. He was just embraced by everybody so well. They were all everyone was just so happy for him. And then there was a photo I posted on Twitter. It was him, Bono, and his dad. And his dad was like trying to make sure Bono was staying in the photo. He's like, no, we take the picture with Bono too. Like, there, I'll take the picture. And he's just soaked in champagne, like just soaked. But it shows that how much his team really likes him, right? Like they really like this driver. And I think they know they've got a special talent, and it speaks to also like the rookie crop here. Like the amount of talent that's in the rookie crop is just ridiculous this year. Yeah, happy for the team, man. That was really cool to see. And then they had the over. So they at the end of it, I guess I should update everybody on this one too. But like when the checker flag came out, there were a bunch of drivers who were noted for overtaking after the checkered flag, but when the safety car warning were still out and being displayed, so they all got investigated, and it was Antonelli, Piastri, Ocon, Leclerc, it was Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly, and I think it was Lance as well, and they were all noted for it, and then eventually they were all cleared of it as well. And so there was a bit of worry there in that moment, like when that sort of came up. And that would have been a shame if that had been taken away from him because of that. And then I also should go back and explain a bit more about the Red Bull protest, because I went down and I saw Christian Horner. Sorry, everybody. I'm like kind of backtracking.
No, it's okay. It's the early morning, man.
So much information. We went down and saw Christian Horner about it, and they had lodged 2 protests in the same sort of document. And so essentially the first one was for George having backed off too much during the safety car period, so falling too far behind the safety car. And then the second one was for driving erratically. Now the one protest, the first one with Russell dropping back too much, Red Bull withdrew that one, but being too far behind the safety car. Russell was actually, I think he was complying with another rule that was regarding a yellow flag delta, I think, that he had to meet, and I think Red Bull pulled that protest. And then the second one, though, that was the one that was under review for so long, but eventually that was rejected because Red Bull was essentially claiming that Russell was driving erratically and I guess unsportsmanlike in a way. And I think the stewards obviously didn't see that at all. And then they obviously decided that they were going to reject the protest, which they did. And I think that speaks a lot to how much Red Bull wants to claw back points in the championship, for sure, no question. Yeah. And they may have saw an opportunity there. Now, moving back on to Kimi. Heading off to Austria, going to be a track where might not be the greatest for Mercedes, we'll see, but it's a track that Antonelli knows, and I think having that stretch of Imola was a rough race. He had too many people around him. Took a lot away from his performance because I think he had too much off-track noise going on. Monaco, too many mistakes, driver's track. And then Barcelona. So a rough stretch, and I think this was the race he definitely needed to kind of get his groove back again, get back into it, get back into the swing of things so he can, carry on that really good momentum we saw heading to Miami and in Miami, and then coming out of it was a bit rough. So I think this is kind of like the bounce back that his confidence needed for sure.
I want to talk about the McLaren incident, which Lando Norris literally forecasted with you on your interview with him on SportsCenter, and had been talking about it.
Thanks for watching, Adam. I appreciate it.
Of course.
It was a good interview.
It was great interview. I thought he was very philosophical,
very candid.
about it. Yeah. Now he goes at the end of the race. Oscar Piastri is chasing Kimi Antonelli, but his tires are dying, and Lando Norris is chasing Oscar Piastri, and McLaren is going to tell you, the McLaren team is going to say these guys are allowed to race. So if you're going to do it, be fair about it, but you can race. And these are one of those times where later on in the season you wonder, maybe they shouldn't have let him. Maybe you swap positions or whatever else you need to do, because Lando Norris dives for a gap on the straightaway that just isn't there and ends up losing his front wing and loses a ton of points in the championship, not just for the team, but for himself, because he's running second and Max Verstappen is breathing down his neck. And Oscar Piastri, maybe the race doesn't go perfectly for Oscar, but the point is, hey, if it's not going perfect, just grab as many points as you can. And Lando has, the team breathing down his neck on the radio going, chase him here, doesn't have DRS. You could hear it in the laps building up 61, 62, 63. Lando push, and he pushed Tim at the wrong spot. Confidence seems to have been an issue for him all year. And I wonder if that is the move of a driver who's not 100% confident in himself.
I think for Sunday, it's like we go back to the races, and he's been really competitive, in the races. Yeah. It's the qualifyings that have been the things that have let him down. Andre Stella had said that he thought that he was overdriving in qualifying following Saturday. And okay. I tend to agree with him on that, because I think Lando probably could have outqualified Oscar, but Oscar did do a great job putting stringing a lap together in Q3 there. But I think Lando probably could have outqualified him. This is a track, Adam, you can't overdrive at. You can't overdrive the car at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, because it'll make you pay. It'll make you pay in your lap time. Either you hit the wall, or you go long, or you go off track, or you take the runoff, whatever. Sunday, he was very competitive. I thought he drove a great recovery race to get himself into the position that he was in, to even have a chance at battling Oscar. When you're going down towards turn one at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and you're on you're that far along the outside, and we've seen this before between Button and Lewis Hamilton. They did the same thing.
Yeah.
Back in, I want to say 2020, I want to say it's 2011. When you're going along the outside there and you're going underneath the flagging stand, the track actually really cuts away. And it's hard to see when you're in the car, because you can't see it. It's almost like an elbow, like a dog leg. It just literally just quickly cuts away, and then you lose all the track, and then you're on the grass. And that's kind of like what happened there by the looks of things. I was wondering why he didn't try to pass Oscar there several laps earlier.
Yep. When
Oscar didn't have the DRS from Antonelli in front of him. Because when he's coming down into the last chicane, and he pulls out to try and make a move, I'm like, those two cars are very close on the performance scale. So it's a really hard pass to make. You're going into that second chicane, you're either going to make contact with each other, or you're going to be the one that's going off track. So it's a really tough spot. So I was thinking, well, why not just make it a little easier on yourself? Follow him through the final chicane, and then have an easier pass with the DRS heading into turn one.
Right.
And
right.
I think that for me, that would have been the move. Now, again, you're in the heat of battle, and are you thinking about it in that moment? I mean, that's when I was watching it, I was thinking he needs to try this in turn one. Like, you got to go to turn one. You got to go, because the performance was just too close by the two of them, Adam. And just just a mistake from Lando. Oscar showed up in the media pen afterwards, and he started talking to us. And Lando had just finished talking to us, and then Oscar came over to talk to us, and Lando was talking to the media beside us, and Lando reached over and grabbed Oscar and said, like, right in front of us, he said, "I'm really sorry, like, about that. That was my bad. That was really dumb." And they shook hands, and Oscar just told him, "Don't worry, not to worry about it."
Yeah.
And they did that right in front of me, and I was like, oh.
Perhaps easier when Oscar's race was basically unaffected by it.
Mm-hmm.
Had he punctured a tire or something like that, that would have been a problem, right?
Yeah, strange. I was able to, like, recover.
And they went right to the pits and switched him out. And
he came back out in P4. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, how's this? How'd that happen?
Yeah. Crazy, huh?
How's there no damage there?
Yeah, 100%. I was like, that's wild. I'm sure Red Bull will probably launch an investigation. They're putting metal in their tires or something like that. I feel like next race for McLaren's got to be one where they reestablish. This is the first time a non-Red Bull, non-McLaren driver has won all season. So you could tell, like, I think Oscar's won 5 of them. Lando's won 2. You've got some pretty dominating performances. This is the first sort of bad weekend McLaren's had. Fine, you take it. But this is something that can't be like a rolling problem. Can't be an issue going forward. And I feel like now that they've got that incident out of the way, maybe they can stop thinking about it, because it seemed to be a focal point, and just get back to winning the championship. Just focus on that.
Yeah, they were running a brand new front suspension here. They trialed it in the first 2 practice sessions on Friday.
Yep.
And I think they were also playing with the new front wing as well. And McLaren confirmed to me that they were going to run the front suspension for the rest of the weekend. And the reason why is because that Lando's having this feeling that he can't sometimes feel the front end of the car. I believe he says, I'm trying to remember what the quote was. I think he thinks it feels numb. He doesn't get any good feedback from it. So they've been trialing this new front suspension. And after Saturday qualifying, I asked him, like, the new front suspension that's here, like, does it feel any better? Like, are you feeling, are you getting a little more feeling from the car? And it was just a direct no. So I was like, okay, well, it's not working then, if that's what you're telling me. So I'll be curious to see if they stick with that moving forward, or what else they try to do to give him a little more feeling from the car. I think they call it cueing. So essentially giving him a heads up. It's like it's like I've said in the pod, where it's like the driver kind of needs to predict what's going to happen. And predict what's going to happen with the car. So this was a very strange weekend for McLaren from the standpoint of the competitive side, because they didn't seem as competitive as they normally are, which is strange. So it's either teams have made a step, or this was a track that just didn't suit them whatsoever. But really strange, Adam, because every track McLaren has gone to has really suited them. So
yeah, well, they got some time to figure it out.
Yeah, well, they got a week. They got a week off.
Yeah, you got a week off. You can figure it out. Now, I want to talk about Ferrari's day. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton hitting the groundhog is caused real damage in his car, and he was obviously very upset about hitting the groundhog. The very famous groundhog. I think there's a whole family of groundhogs that live there, so I don't think it'll be the last groundhog.
So many live on the island. It's not just like a little fan. It's like they're everywhere. Yeah,
they're everywhere. And that's part of driving. That's just it's going to happen. But Ferrari 5-6, and really it would have been 6-7 had Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri held their places. By all accounts, not good enough. Fred Vasseur was upset this weekend coming in and talking to the media about the reports that he was going to be let go if there wasn't some performance. And by the way, it doesn't make any sense to let Fred Vasseur go over performance. The report that came out was like, well, the 2025 performance is going to directly affect the 2026 performance, which it isn't. There's a whole regulation change. That's how you can kind of poke a hole in that. I have no doubt that at Ferrari HQ, there's politicking behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. I have no doubt at Ferrari HQ that they're upset with the results that the team has given them this year. But I have serious doubts that Fred Vasseur's job or anybody else's job is in sort of serious danger here, Tim. This year seems like a year where you kind of go, well, we get what we get. Next year, if they don't establish themselves early, then I can see these reports being true. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. It makes total sense. It's like when there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing.
Yep.
When Vasseur first started working with Ferrari, you didn't really get the media leaks to the Italian press. And then all of a sudden we had this report that came out leading into the weekend. And you're kind of just like, well, that's strange because and then two of them, like two fairly prominent Italian newspaper outlets.
Yep.
Being able to get their hands on, that type of a story. I mean, that's why everyone was so curious to know what was going on. And then obviously Fred getting quite upset about that. And, his future being questioned with the team. He came down to the media pen. I talked to him about it. I kind of just, what did I say to him? I kind of put it to him like he's sort of the first line of defense at the team. How is he able to focus like with all this noise going on around him? And he kind of said that it's to sort of try and protect Charles and Lewis. Like he's like, they can say whatever they want about me. He's like, but leave other people, leave their names, leave them alone, leave them out of it. That type of thing. But when he said like Charles and Lewis, I was kind of like, that's strange. Why would he sort of go there? And I think in the media, I wasn't in the FIA press conference room on Thursday because I was doing a sit down interview with George and with Carlos Sainz. But Lewis had said like, hey, like the reason I'm here at Ferrari is because of Fred. And I'm not, if it kind of was like, if Fred's not here, then I'm not here kind of deal. Like when you sort of hear something like that, I mean, the drivers really have his back. So I don't know how much I read into the press, the Italian media publications.
Yeah.
Because Fred kind of made it seem that these were sort of not real journalists, I think is, and I'm paraphrasing.
Probably trading in rumor. Yes.
Yeah. That's more accurate. There's a better way of putting it. So there's a lot of pressure on the team coming into the weekend. Like a lot. And for Charles, he told me he thought he could add pole here.
Yeah.
Like that got away. That got away from him, he said. Like I was talking to him about it and just made a mistake, and then obviously had the traffic in front of him but had the slower moving car in front of him that kind of gave him a ton of dirty air, he said, because it's the type of track where if there is traffic and it does get out of the way, it doesn't matter because at that point the sort of damage has already been done because the corners are so short. They're not like long sweeping turns. But yeah, he was so upset, man, when he came to talk to us on Saturday. Holy God. And, I kind of just had to, empathize a bit with him because like he was dropping F-bombs. So I was like,
yeah. So he was really upset.
Yeah. I was kind of like, emotions are really high right now,
Yeah.
I felt a bit bad for him because he was, he was super competitive, dude. Like all weekend, like for having a crash in free practice, 1, not getting free practice 2, showing up in free practice 3, and setting a lap that was like really, really good.
Yeah.
He felt that he could have been on for pole position. I think this was a weekend for Ferrari, Adam, that completely got away from them. Like this, I think could have been a race winning weekend for Ferrari for sure. 100%. Maybe podium finishing weekend for Lewis because he's still getting to grips with everything. But for Charles, like this could have been he could have been able to win this one this weekend. The qualifying had been better. Yeah, super frustrating for the team for sure.
A couple guys I do want to quickly talk about before we wrap here because you're running out of time before you got to get out of that hotel room, my friend. So I want to just quickly talk about two people's days. And it's interesting after you get Mercedes, Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari. Then it's Aston Martin, Kick Sauber, Haas, Williams. And the Aston Martin is that of Fernando Alonso. He collects his first few points of the season. He qualified in 6th. He would have finished 8th, but obviously Lando crashed, so he finishes 7th. 6 points for him. How much of a relief do you think that is for him and the Aston Martin garage?
Oh, huge. He feels that the car is he's starting to feel a little more at one with the car. I think it was because of the update that was brought to Imola. I'm not sure if it doesn't sound like Lance is sort of feeling the same from it because I did ask Lance about it. It sounded like he wasn't feeling the car as much as what Fernando was getting from it. Fernando was dialed in, man, this weekend. Like he showed up like, eye of the tiger. Like he was motivated coming off the points that he got in Barcelona at his home race. Yeah. He was just so dialed in this week. As soon as I saw him, I was like, oh yeah. This guy's gonna have he's here to have a good weekend. The team needed the points. They needed it, that's for sure. There's no question about it. A big part of it is because of the amount of points that Hulkenberg had gotten in Spain. Yeah, and Fernando was basically just like, hey, we need to get some points, like because of the points that Hulkenberg got in Barcelona. He was telling me, and I was like, yeah, that adds up. He was fantastic. I mean, this is the type of track that really suits Fernando. He always goes well here. He went well here in 2023.
It was cool to see him and Lewis starting on the same row.
I was just gonna dial it back to 2023 to here because the same thing. They just moved back a little bit further because those two had a battle in 2023 for podium, and so it was cool to see. I think for the team though, this was desperately needed. They have upgrades that are going to be coming soon to this car. I believe for the British Grand Prix. They're still going to bring some updates to it. They're not cutting off development with the car yet. And there won't be big, massive updates that they're going to bring to the car. Mm-hmm. But they are going to continue to fine tune it. I mean, obviously the big focus for them is on 2026. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we got to have some one-to-one time with Andy Cowell throughout the weekend as well. So it was good. Canadian-owned team, you want to see them do well at this race. Ton of Aston Martin gear in the stands. Adam.
Oh yeah,
jeez, well, more so than normal, man. More so than normal. Like I was because usually I'm seeing like Ferrari red
in Montreal, especially.
Yeah, it was. I was like, whoa, there's a lot of Aston Martin gear out here. Like right now,
it's a Canadian team. We gotta look at it that way, right?
Pretty good.
Yeah. The last guy I do want to talk about, as you mentioned, our last couple minutes here, Niko Hulkenberg. He, has put in. This is just about as good as Kick Sauber could have expected, I think, for this season. What a signing this guy has been, and what a renaissance of a career. This is a guy who was a couple of years ago was the Aston Martin reserve driver, and got into a race because Lance Stroll got hurt. Mm-hmm. This is a heck of a season he's put together for Haas and last year, and now Kick Sauber this year. For that team, which is becoming one of the premier German brands in the sport, to have a German driver doing that seems pretty cool, especially going into next year's regulations.
The update that they brought to Sauber brought to Barcelona did bring them some performance. They still need more to come, but it has helped them when it comes to the race. And not only that, but I think tire management, because Bortoleto was telling me that like him and Hulkenberg were super close in quali. And I think Bortoleto was still sort of frustrated by qualifying that took place on Sunday when he came over to talk to us. But the two of them are super close in qualifying. It was more so that I think Hulkenberg may have trimmed the car out just a bit more than Gabby did. And also the tire management skills from Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of like those two things played a pretty big role. I did speak with Hulkenberg afterwards, and he was pretty happy about the direction of the car, the direction of the team. Good atmosphere at the team too. I spoke with Jonathan Wheatley one-on-one, and just that team sort of like the team atmosphere you need to establish, because I think like Wheatley was really good at that at Red Bull. I was talking to him about that, and I think he's really brought that to Sauber, because you can actually like you can see it, you can feel it. It does look like a different dynamic at Sauber. It looks way more organized than it's ever looked. And so I think for that team, I think Jonathan Wheatley has done a really decent job there at him. And I think like obviously they're, the stuff that's going to happen with Audi, that's a huge project. And whether or not they can get that to be really competitive straight off the hop remains to be seen. But I think you can see two things happen here. You can see the team gaining confidence for the systems and the processes that Wheatley's put in place, and I think you can see the experience that Niko Hulkenberg brings in terms of car development happening as well. So I think there's two things there that are going on with that team, and I think we are starting to see that play out at that team. So yeah, they're interesting, man. I think I'll be curious to see how their development goes for the next few months here, because I think
it's
they're
good
done.
to not see them in last place, 19
100%.
and 20 every race, man.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
you want a competitive team. You want everybody competitive.
Yeah.
So it's good to see, and I'm just particularly happy for Niko. He just seems like a really good guy who's worked really, really hard,
I think, I would love to see if he could grab a podium before his time in Formula One is done, because he's definitely owed that. Like he obviously hasn't been given the greatest equipment over the last few years. There's no question about that. But to make his return to F1 and for Haas to give him a chance to get back in the car, Gunther Steiner giving him a chance to get back in the car, and then for him to show up and meet the moment, it was pretty special, I think. So yeah, it's a good story. I will like to see where they go from here. We do have a few questions, Adam. I don't know if you want me to.
Okay, we got to roll quickly here, buddy, because I want to get you out on time. So yeah, let's get to the questions.
I got a couple minutes I can spare. Okay, so Andrew asks, he starts with saying, Tim, how do you feel about that Norris move? Because Adam, you never really gave your opinion on that.
To me, it feels like a guy who is trying to do too much. Trying to push too hard, and needs to just back it off and be himself, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Austin Forrest, what's the difference between slipstream and dirty air when trailing a car? I started following F1 3 years ago, still can't pick up the difference. Okay, slipstream is when one car is right behind another car, like just right on their gearbox.
Right.
Or when, we'll call it like that. Dirty air is essentially the car in front punches a hole in the air. Air travels through the car, it travels under the car, and travels around the car. When the air goes through the car, there has to be spill off. Like the air also needs to be spilled off the car. So where does it go? How does it leave the car? That's dirty air because it's been disrupted, it's turbulence, and it's just basically flying off the side of the car, not directly behind it, but more like the sides of it. Even and that impacts trailing cars. If you get close enough to an F1 car, like close enough, like we're talking really close, that's a slipstream. You're not going to feel that dirty air whatsoever. So that would be the difference between the two.
Yeah.
Hopefully that explains it a little better. And sorry about Saturday, everybody. I was stuck at the track. I didn't get back till late, and I didn't get to do a post-qualifying podcast, but I'll do one for Austria for sure.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
it happens.
I texted you guys. Sorry, but I was super busy this weekend, man. Like really, really busy. It's been a great weekend. There's no question about it, but just very, very busy. So yeah, and sorry for cutting this one short too, Adam. I got to run to the airport.
No, you get going, man. Listen, we appreciate it. You're not cutting it short. This is a full show. Have a safe
I feel like
ride home
we have way more to talk about. Like I have so much more information. Like that's like I said when I go to these races, man, I just get so much more stuff. So it's like,
yes, yeah, it's always like that. It's always like that. So enjoy your trip home. Enjoy your rest, Tim, because you're going to need it. And we'll have more shows coming out later on, including an F1 movie review, because Tim has actually seen it and I have not. So I have many, many questions, and it'll be spoiler free, we promise.
Yes.